I know Entourage, obviously it's loosely based on Mark Wahlberg's life and his entourage, right? Now, when you got to speak with Mark Wahlberg at different points, did he ever mention any like? Did he ever go to you and say like, you know what, this show is crazy how it is, like these stories and these parties, whatever. But the real life entourage was even crazier. Did he ever give you any like crazy
Well,
insights about that?
I think the initial concept for Entourage was a reality show. I think it was going to be like cameras following like Mark's boys, right? And then they figured that wasn't a great idea. So they decided to do the scripted version. Here's what Mark did that was really, really smart early on. We had shot the pilot, and now there's always this long waiting period, especially back then with HBO. You shoot your pilot, and then HBO watches all their pilots, and they don't make every show. They decide. So we film the first episode, and they decide which one they're going to send to series. That's almost like getting the part again. Like you get the part, you shoot the pilot, and then I go work back in the restaurant because that show's not picked up yet. I'm not making any money. Then they pick us up, and we get calls one day. It's like he's like, yeah, Mark's gonna fly you guys to Vegas to fight an HBO fight. I think it was like Roy Jones Tarver or something. And you guys are gonna fly private. So meet him at Burbank Airport at 6 o'clock. Here's the tail number. I'm 23 years old. I'm like, first of all, I didn't know there was an airport in Burbank. Like, I only thought it was LAX. Number two, what's a tail number? I don't know how to fly private. I never even flew first class. I was coach JetBlue Tower Air back then. So I show up at the airport. It's this private air. And then, Dylan rolls up, Connolly, Adrian, and it's Mark and some of his friends. And we take that 45-minute flight to Vegas. And you just saw how he operated. Like, car picking him up. Like, we're in one part of the hotel. He's staying a lot higher up than we are. We go to the fight, afterwards we go out for a little bit, but then you turn around and it's like, oh, Mark's already gone. You didn't even see him leave. He like slips out you just saw just how, organized it was, but it was with his friends doing it, and that's what I thought was really cool. And we left that weekend and we were like, okay, we know how to do this. We think we know how to portray a little bit of that. And we did, and even think about back then, you go 20 years ago,
True.
it just was different times too. Like, we're still, I don't even know if I had a cell. I think I just got like a Nextel or something. You guys are too young to remember that. It just was all different, and you couldn't just text someone and be like, oh, Mark's going to be here in 20 minutes. Like, it was a lot more hands-on back then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
and even like now, like to this day, 20 years later, do you still keep in touch with Mark Wahlberg? Like, do you ever, is there any talks about maybe a potential reboot or anything? Because I think what me and Mike really found interesting about you and your character is that Turtle went through this big dramatic change.
Mm-hmm.
He went from this slacker guy, lazy stoner, and became like a businessman. We're good, Mark Cuban in the show, right? And everything, which is obviously so cool. But like, where if there was a reboot, where would you think like what would Turtle be up to in this day and age with social media and like like just how would that be, you think?
It's a great question. And I do keep up with Mark, these days, and he's got, I think he's got 4 kids. I got 2 kids now. You guys are young, right? And enjoy your youth. When you get older, it's like it's just harder to see everybody because like you have these other responsibilities now. Life is no longer about you. Life is about your family. I come last and I make sure I keep it that way because that's how I want it.
Yeah.
My wife and kids come first, and then if I get a chance, I'll eat last, whatever. So, but I always like Mark has a great charity of his own that I always go support, whether it's like golf charities or whatever. But the reboot question. So I never allow myself to really think about this stuff until this year because it's 20 years. All right, first things first. Vince was the engine behind the show, right? Like the career stuff. That was always the drive of the show. So what do you do with Vince? Well, I'm sure Doug Allen could come up with something. I tried thinking we can't do is the movie gonna open? Like people don't go to movies anymore, really, which is sad. I
Yeah.
love going to movies.
Yeah.
So maybe with that, it's more about, hey, we got to reach out to some creators, some TikTokers, some YouTube people and figure out a new way to promote this movie to get people to show up. I think drama, probably you could still run out some of the old hits with him and it'll still work. Uh, E definitely has like 9 kids with Sloane, probably,
Yep.
most likely. So brings us to Turtle, right? And you could say maybe he had the biggest glow up, but I also think he had the most room to grow because he started so far behind everybody else emotionally, financially, motivationally. And in the end, he finished out. He definitely lost his money, right? Did Turtle keep all those million? Come on.
I don't
You don't
know.
think Turtle got involved in some NFT or some meme coin that didn't work out? You don't think
I
he
mean, I
got
always thought maybe
fleeced a little?
I thought maybe he became like a Dave Portnoy almost, where it's like, maybe he became like that.
Possible. Look,
But
I think those are the two versions. I think Turtle either became some kind of like a media conglomerate, or now he's like a billionaire, or he's flat on his ass, lost everything, and he's starting back over.